Okay, so moving on, and use this as an opportunity to kind of talk again. When I'm trying to solve a problem, I always want to break it down into small, very, very small tasks and get each one of them working first. And I'll get them working, I'll run it, I'll test it, make sure everything's working. And that's what I'm doing here, breaking this down into what's the next logical thing. So for me, the next logical thing is, right, I have the text view tip amount and I'm updating it, but I actually want to update it with the tip amount. So what I need to do next? Well, the next thing I need to do is get a value that was entered by the user. So to do that, I need to get a reference to, go back to design mode. Sorry, my mouse it keeps jumping in and out like I don't have control over it. I don't know what's going on. So I need to get a reference to is the text input total amount. That's over here on this, right? So let's go back. Oh, and then just as a reminder, text input total amount. Find it. I think it's the first one. It is of type text input layout. Oh, sorry, it's the interior one though. So it is the text input edit text that we want to get reference to. So let's go up here. Let's create a new variable, val text input. What do I call it? Total amount equals find view by ID. Text input edit text r dot id dot text input total amount. So now that we have it, we need to read the value. So this is a little bit tricky. This is probably the trickiest part of this whole simple little application. So to get the amount, I would say var amount is equal to what? Okay, so we have the text input total amount. And there's no just like, right, the user entered something, they could enter anything. And the text input total amount just returns that. The problem is, if we go to just text, notice that the data type is not a string. The data type is editable. So that is an internal structure that Android uses for editable text on the screen. And it's not really worth getting into too much here. It's just important to know it's not a string. To get the string out of it, I need to say to string. And now to turn it from a string into something else, and since we're doing a calculation, I need to call toDouble. And so all this works ever. We're going to run into a little bit of a problem. So let's go down here and let's say that what we're going to do is when you click the amount, when you click the button, whatever you've typed into the edit text, we're just going to stick on the screen. Problem is this isn't really going to work. So let's run this first time so I can show you some of the problems we're going to run into. So if I come up right now, and there's nothing here, right? It's blank. So I hit compute, the app crashes. So what happened? Well, what happened here is that we got toString, and toString comes back as an empty string. In this case, it doesn't come back as null, it comes back as an empty string. So when I try to convert an empty string into a double, it crashes. So, well, what are we going to do? Well, there's lots of different ways of solving this. The way I'm going to solve it is with the try-catch block. So what we'll do is we'll try to do this, and if it works, we will update. And if it doesn't, right, we'll catch. In this case, be a number format exception. And for right now, let's just do nothing. We'll do something else. We'll figure something else interesting to do later. But for right now, we'll say do nothing. So again, go through this by follows. We get a reference to the text input. This is the control on the screen that the user typed something into, we hope. Then in a try block, we're going to try to, from that, grab the editable, pull the string out of it, and then convert it to a double. And if all that worked, we're going to go find the text view tip amount, and we're going to set it to be whatever the amount, whatever the user typed in. If this fails, we're not going to do anything. So let's give this a try. I believe this one should work. Come on. There we go. So now when I click compute, there we go, nothing happens. But if I go in here and type in a number, 1, 2, 3, up, we get 1, 2, 3. In this case, since I did double, it's 1, 2, 3, 0. Okay, so far so good. Oh, if I can, come on. It's not dragging off the screen. Oh, there we go. So far so good. So let me check time real quick. We're 5 minutes. We can keep going a little bit farther. So the next thing to do is we need to convert the amount to the tip amount. Okay. So to do that, I need to see which of these radio buttons were checked. Radio button 10, radio button 15, or radio button 20. I know one of them's checked, but I don't know which one. So to do so, I'm going to have to actually check each one of them to see which one is checked. Rather than do that here, that's going to start to get kind of messy and make this a little overly complicated. So instead, let's go down here and just create a new function, private fun, and I'll call it get tip percent as a double. And now we can do, actually, you know what? Let's do this time. So what we could do, like we did before, is we said val option 15 equals find view by ID. It is a radio button r dot ID dot radio button 10. And then I could say if option 15, oh, we're up 10, we should do 10 first. If option 10 dot is checked, then return 0.1. Right, so we can do it this way. You can actually shortcut this whole thing a little bit. We don't really need this variable. We're not doing anything with it other than checking is checked. So we can actually shorten this whole thing. Let's copy that out. I can just do that. So if find by ID, r.id.radio-button-10 is checked. So remember, this right here is going to return the radio button object. And now you can just call is checked on it, or check the property is checked. So yeah, a little bit of a shortcut. And now I can just copy and paste this 3 times. And we could do 15, 20. Now we'll return 15 and return 0.2. There are other ways to do this, and there are other, a little bit slicker ways of writing some code like this. But this is certainly very serviceable, easy to read, easy to understand. If I thought that in the future, if I was writing this for an actual job, and I thought in the future that the value would change, like we might add more options in the future, then I might go a little bit more dynamic way of doing this. But right now, I think this works just fine for what we're dealing with. So we do get a little bit of error down here. Return is required. So we know as the developer that there's 3 radio buttons. There's only 3 radio buttons. And we know that one of them is checked by default. So the user has no way of not having one of them checked. So what we know is beyond a shadow of a doubt, one of these will be true and return a value. But there is no way for the compiler to know it. So the compiler is saying, look, you're not returning a value. So you do need to have some kind of default return. And maybe by default we'll return 15. So that's the way you have to do it. All right, we're at 9 minutes. I'm going to stop this video and we will pick it up in the next one. We'll use the getTip function to do some computations.